Welcome to Travel Talk with Joy. I'm Joy. I've traveled to all 50 states. I've been to all 7 continents. On most of my adventures, I do it with my husband, who's a full-time wheelchair user. Come meet amazing people who travel through life a little differently as we explore the world of accessible travel. Let's go. Welcome to Travel Talk with Joy. This is where we talk travel and meet some really interesting people. But before we meet our special guest today, I just had to talk first about what's been going on at Wheel the World. So this month we gave away this amazing trip for 2 to South Africa to Shiwimu Safari Lodge. And it's this incredible place that like 5-star everything. On like when they planned the whole place, they really decided, no, we're making this place accessible. And so like every single thing is accessible. So we had this massive giveaway. There were 4,000 people that entered. And it was incredible because the man that won, I got to call him at the blue and say, hello, this is Joy with Wheel the World. You've just won a trip for 2 to South Africa, all expenses paid. And when we were talking about it, he said, I'm so excited. He said, because 4.5 years ago when I lost all my limbs, and I was like, wait, lost all his limbs. Yes, he lost all his limbs due to bacterial pneumonia. And he said, my wife and I had a safari trip planned and we had to cancel it because I got so sick. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is like perfect. The universe wants this to happen. So he's going to be in South Africa at the safari, literally 5 years to the date of his injury. Like, it's incredible. So I'm super excited for him. This is definitely our biggest giveaway we've ever had at Wheel the World, and we're going to have plenty more. So make sure you pay attention when we say we're doing a free giveaway, because it really is free and it really was completely random. We used a name generator where it puts all of our database that entered into this name generator, popped out a name, and it was Lee York. So excited for him. So that was the most exciting thing this past month at Wheel the World. But, Travel Talk with Joy, it's me, I'm Joy. And the reason I'm in the disability community primarily is because of my husband. And so I thought it was really important to have him on in an episode just so you guys can meet who he is and learn a little bit more about us. So I would like to welcome today to Travel Talk with Joy, Bert Burns. Welcome to Travel Talk with Joy, Bert.
Thank you, Joy.
No, most of the answers that I'm going to be asking, of course, I already know, but it's really for all of our audience here so they can learn about you and, your experience with travel and disabilities. So thank you for being here, and I'm just going to get right into it. So how did you become a wheelchair user?
Okay. 42 years ago, I was in college, long time ago, and I was working in a restaurant after school every night. And I was driving home from work one night real late and going through a green light, got hit by a drunk driver, got thrown 45 feet and broke my neck at C7 level, and died a couple times over the next few weeks. They brought me back to life with little machines, and I went through rehab for 4 or 5 months.
Where did you go through rehab?
I was at Lucerne Spinal Center in Orlando, Florida. They were a great spinal center. It was a brand new specialized spinal center. At that time, it was one of the model centers.
Mm-hmm. So as you were going through rehab, like, what do you think was some of the really big things that made you have success?
Well, I had a great PT and OT, but my biggest, I feel my biggest, most important person to me was my recreation therapist. She got me back involved in life. Kind of got me back involved in, she got me involved in wheelchair sports. She got me involved in doing things, told me life wasn't over. I could still do stuff, and that helped a lot.
I love this because by profession, I was a recreation therapist also. So I love that recreation therapy gets all the credit for your success.
They do.
That's awesome. So, she was the most important person, you say, when you were in rehab.
Right.
But as far as while you were there, like, tell us, how was your friends and family support during your rehab process?
Yeah, even though she was the biggest employee that gave me the biggest impact, really the biggest impact that helped me, my friends and family. I had so many people come down and see me all the time. It was right when Mothers Against Drunk Driving came out. So there was a news article, update on Bert Burns, the newspaper every week. And so I have tons of friends and family down there, and it helped tremendously.
That's great. So you came home how long after your injury?
About 5 months after my injury, I was
Wow.
back home.
You know, these days people are in and out of rehab so quickly. There's no way someone would get to stay for 5 months in rehabilitation.
Yes.
Wow.
Helped a lot.
So when you got home, like it wasn't always smooth sailing. So tell us a little bit about like how that went transitioning to home, and then what were some of like the pitfalls that you experienced when you first got home?
Well, getting home, I knew I wanted to get involved in wheelchair racing because my rec therapist had introduced me to wheelchair racing. A guy named Randy Knoll came in and showed me his wheelchair. And I'm pushing a wheelchair down a hallway, a regular wheelchair, like at 1 or 2 miles an hour. I get his race chair, all of a sudden I'm pushing like 4 or 5 miles an hour. Like, I love this.
Wow.
And so my first time home, the first night, we're third house on the street. I remember pushing down the stop sign, couldn't make it back. My brother had helped me back. Second night, I got stop sign back, about halfway back. Third night, I got stop sign all the way back. Yes. And within a month, I was pushing around the block. And then within 4 months, I entered my first 5K road race out at University of Central Florida. And it was about 400 people, and I came in dead last. Got beat by every old lady, every little kid, every wheelchair user, but I finished. Took me an hour and 5 minutes to go 3 miles, but I finished.
That's awesome.
It was cool.
So that was like a good thing that happened when you got home. What was something that was hard when you got home? Like, what was a challenge that you had?
Some of the biggest things was, with my friends, there's so many things I used to do with them. We used to play sports. We used to play intramurals and being involved in all kinds of things, whether it be racquetball or softball or basketball, whatever. I couldn't do those things anymore with them. One thing I could do, I could still drink a beer.
Oh.
And so I'd go out drinking beer with my work friends one night, my high school friends one night, my college friends one night. So I'm going out. They're only going out one night a week with me, but I'm going out 6, 7 nights a week drinking beer. So drinking too much was probably a little problem for me at first.
Yeah. Understandable though. It's a hard adjustment when you first get home for sure. So how did you develop your skills as a wheelchair racer?
Well, getting involved with it and getting involved with the team helped a lot. I raced just recreationally down in Orlando when I was still there. My first job out of college was in Atlanta at Shepherd Center, and I got involved with Shepherd Spinal Center's racing team, and I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from being around other wheelchair racers, and I wasn't the only person doing it. I was chasing paraplegics around a track all day long. So I got faster chasing them.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give to new wheelchair racers? Like what's the biggest advice you could tell them when they're starting into the sport?
Try to find somebody else that's kind of been racing a while, kind of quote, like been there, done that, and let them help you, show you ways of training. There are a lot of schools now, University of Illinois, University of Arizona, they have great wheelchair racing programs. Maybe contact a person there that can help give you a training regimen. It helps a lot if you can train certain ways, do interval workouts, do hill workouts, to work on rollers. There's all kind of ways you can get better.
So obviously you took your racing and you really became good and got into national teams, Paralympic teams. Racing was a huge part of your life for a long time.
Was.
Which Paralympics were you involved with?
I was in the 92 Paralympics in Barcelona, Spain. I went to 2000 Paralympics in Sydney, Australia. In 2004, Athens, Greece was my last one.
And what was the highlight of this racing career?
Probably the highlight was my very first one in the 92 games. I was on a 4x400 meter relay. So we had 4 racers. I was with 3 other real fast racers, and we won, got a gold medal, set a world record.
It's incredible.
Had an awesome experience. Get up on the medal stand, and I injured in 1982 and could barely push the stop sign. In 1992, 10 years later, I'm on a medal stand getting a gold medal, playing the national anthem, raising the American flag.
I'm sure tears in your eyes.
There was definitely tears in my eyes. The whole 3 or 4 minutes I was up there.
That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit, like shift to travel for a little bit, because You told me that traveling with racing really is how you became independent as a spinal cord injury.
Right. Right, because traveling, we only had, when I was in Orlando, we had local races. If I wanted to get good at stuff, I had to compete in regionals. We used to have a local races you compete in, then regional races, and then nationals, wheelchair nationals. I remember going to my first wheelchair nationals in 1985. I go in, I'm taking a shower bench, a raised toilet seat, a suppository inserter, a dill stick, all kinds of catheters and boxes of equipment. I go in this room, I'm piling all this stuff in there. I look over on the bed, and there's a bag in this guy's bed. All of a sudden, he rolls in. He says, "Hey, man, who are you?" I said, "I'm Bert. Who are you?" He says, "My name's Steve." He goes, "What's all this crap?" I said, "Well, I'm a quad. I need all this stuff." He goes, "Well, I'm a quad. I don't use it." I said, "Well, teach me, Obi-Wan." And so the 1 week I was in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania, Steve Kalashevsky taught me how to use a tub, how to transfer in and out of the bottom of a tub without having to use a shower bench, how to transfer on and off a toilet without having to use a raised toilet seat and do my bowel program. He taught me he taught me so many things. In that 1 week, I learned more in 1 week from Steve. I learned in my 5 months of rehab.
It's incredible. I mean, it really is amazing how peer support connection can really change your outcome so much just by meeting certain people
along the way.
Along the way.
Yeah, it really does make a big difference.
For sure. So, people want to know our love story. But before we share our love story, I want to talk to you a little bit about what is the secret to getting women interested in you when you use a wheelchair?
The secret to meeting people when I'm in a wheelchair and finding someone to go out with, for me, was I remember the first time I went by myself. I go to this dance club and I go get a beer. I'm sitting on the dance floor and watching everybody dance, and I feel everybody staring at me like, "What's that guy in a wheelchair doing here?" And I felt kind of weird. So the next week I did the same thing. I went out again. I went to a different bar, but I got a beer. Went out to the dance floor. I'm watching people. There's always 4 or 5 girls that are dancing together. I rolled out the middle of them and started dancing. So I'm dancing like 4 or 5 girls all at one time and doing wheelies. I'm spinning around. I'm having a good time. The rest of the night, people asked me to dance. So
I love that.
Great.
So it wasn't a problem.
It wasn't a problem. And that really gave me confidence that people wanted to dance with me. They didn't mind I was in a wheelchair. They didn't care. As long as I wanted to dance and have a good time, they wanted to be with me. It was fun.
So you could probably say the secret to meeting women when you use a wheelchair is get on the dance floor early.
Get on the dance floor early. Just ask girls out. Come to bat. The more times you come to bat, the more hits you'll get.
It's awesome. Well, you definitely get on the dance floor early with me, that's for sure. So now that you've taught them how your secret skills on meeting women, let's talk about how you met me, because that's important. That's what brought me to this community, and so I thought that was a big thing for us to talk about. So I used to be a recreation therapist at the Rehab Institute working in Kansas City, Missouri. And I had been working there for about 2 years, and I get a call. And it's from a guy who lives in Atlanta, and he wants to meet some people that he could hire as sales reps in the Kansas City area. And he says, could you, give me some people that might be good to interview? And I said, sure. And it was him that was on the other end of the line. You go.
So I called her. So I was working for a medical supply company. And when I hired sales reps, I would always hire somebody in a wheelchair because they knew more about selling catheters, I felt, than an able-bodied person. And plus, they could roll past the gatekeepers like sooner than a walking person could.
Absolutely.
So I would call a rehab center, and I got joined in the line, and we talked back and forth, and she gave me 4 or 5 people to interview in Kansas City. So I told her, I said, when I'm out in Kansas City, you should love us other than the line. She sounded cute on the phone. So I thought, well, what the heck? I said, well, I'm out there. Why don't we go to dinner? I'll take you to dinner, and I appreciate all your help. Other than the line, she's thinking free dinner. Why not? And so I remember rolling into the office, and she was on the other side of the office. And I said, Joy? And she turned around and she had this beautiful smile she has on right now. And I looked at her and I said to myself, I'm gonna marry this girl one day. And that night we went out. We stayed like 3 in the morning talking. Next night she had a date with somebody else. We broke it. She broke it, and we went out again. The next 2 days I was supposed to go to St. Louis and interview more people, but I found more things to do in Kansas City.
We started dating back and forth there from Kansas City to Atlanta then for about 4 months. And then at the end of 4 months, this is shocking, I moved to Atlanta and we got engaged almost immediately and we got married 6 months later. Like, I think he put a like full court press on because he thought, well, if I don't do it fast, she's going to realize what she's getting into. At the time, I was 24, he was 33. My parents were like, what are you doing? But 28 years later,
I'm a good sales guy. I closed the deal.
he did close that deal. Well, so we had this wonderful wedding in Colorado in 1996. It was beautiful, fabulous. Um, and then we traveled around for about 5 years after that, really just enjoying each other. We both love to travel so much, so that was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you had been told that you could never have kids.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, when I first got injured in '82, people with spinal cord injuries most of the time didn't have kids. And then the test tube baby came along, and which is in vitro fertilization. And so Joy and I went through in vitro fertilization, took my sperm, her eggs, and made them into some embryos. And we put in 3 embryos the very first time and got out 2 babies.
Yes.
Got out twins, got a boy-girl twins. Boom, done, first time.
Yes, we were really lucky that way. It's not always that fortunate with everybody, that's for sure. But our kids are 22, so that's a little bit more about us. And they live here in Atlanta, which is great. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how Wheel the World has really changed our travel life.
Okay.
Because we met Wheel the World 2 years ago when we were on a group trip. And there's a guy named Corey Lee. Follow him, Curb Free with Corey Lee. And I'd followed him for a long time, and he had these group trips. And I was like, I want to go meet that guy because he travels everywhere. So I told him, I told Bert, I was like, okay, let's go to Chile and meet Corey Lee. He didn't know who Corey Lee was, and he really didn't care that much about Chile, but I'm like, come on, we're going. So he said yes. We go to Chile, and Wheel the World was the planner of this group trip. You know, what was your first feeling about group trips before you went on this?
I didn't really want to go hang out with a bunch of other wheelchairs in a trip somewhere, but I had a great time, met some great people, and it was wonderful. I really did have a good time.
I think that, you know, a lot of times when you've gone through rehab, it feels almost like an outing. That's like you're scared that it's going to feel like an outing. And so you're like, I don't want to do that. But the group trips really are incredible.
It was good.
Yeah. So we went to Chile, and that's where we met Corey Lee, who was amazing, still is amazing, and had a great trip there with them. Then we went to Iceland and we went to Italy and Greece and had all this adventure, and we didn't have to plan it. And me as the travel planner for our family, it's so nice just to be able to call them and say, here's what we want to do, or look online and say, here's what we want to do, and it's done. I mean, all those days of calling and calling and calling, do you have wheelchair accessible room? Did I get the shower? Like, all that's gone. Tell a little bit about how the travel profile works.
Yeah, when you first sign up with Wheel of the World, you fill out what's called a travel profile. You go in there and you tell what your needs are. They ask you, what kind of bed height you need, what kind of shower do you need, a shower bench or roll-in shower. Do you need transportation? How do you get to and from the airport, or are you driving your own vehicle somewhere? So you fill out all this information, and I use a manual chair most of the time. Right now I'm in a power chair, but I use a manual chair most of the time. And when we travel, so I want a bed height that's like 24 inches, kind of level my chair, so I transfer over there. But some people, if you're using a power chair and you're a higher quad or you're a different disability, you may use a Hoyer. So you may need a bigger bed with room for a Hoyer to go up under the bed. So everybody's different. Everybody, even though we all have disabilities, every disability is different. And so I fill out my profile so they know exactly what I need. And when we travel somewhere, like we went to Washington, D.C. last year, and we go on Will the World's website. We tell we want to go watch DC. They spit out like 6 hotels for us. 2 of them are perfect for our needs. 2 of them are pretty good for our needs. 2 of them are average for our needs. Well, we didn't really need. We were only staying one night, so I wasn't going to take a shower. So we didn't need a room with a roll-in shower, but we wanted a room that was real close to the White House. So we chose one of the ones that wasn't totally accessible for us, but it had the right bed height.
Yeah.
That's all I cared about.
I think that's one of the best things is you get so much information, and instead of being like, oh, it's the ADA room, which usually doesn't work anyway because it's all different, you know exactly what the details are about the room. And the reason that they have this extreme detail is because they've gone and measured, like literally tape measure, measuring the details of these rooms, which I'm always like, this is incredible. When they first told me this, I didn't even believe that this was true, but that they've measured these rooms. And so, you know, your bed height, 24, 25 inches, they nail it. Mm-hmm. And if they don't get it right, which they haven't yet for us, you know, accidents do happen, but they will refund your money and find you a new place. So it's really this money back guarantee. And so Alvaro is the owner of Wheel the World, and he's C6 quad also. And so he really understands, like, this is what someone needs, you know, is a wheelchair user.
Right.
So, you know, we've had these amazing adventures, just so much fun. But I want to talk a little bit about the times when it doesn't go so well. Okay, let's go down that hole for a little bit. So recently you were at the World Series of Poker. Mm-hmm. And talk a little about that. So he loves playing poker. If anybody's out there and is a poker player, Bert would love to come to your home game. He will take your money probably, but you know, he might be nice.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so talk about how much fun you have with poker. And first thing I want to talk about poker though is interesting. How do you feel that people relate to you on a poker table as a wheelchair user versus able-bodied person at the table? Like, how's that dynamic?
I think they treat you just the same. We're all sitting down at the poker table, and we all got a bunch of chips in front of us. And if my chips are bigger than their chips, they don't care that I'm in a wheelchair or not. They want my chips. So yeah, they're one thing. My hands don't work quite as well. As you can see, my hands are kind of closed. So a lot of times they're helpful. If I win a big pot, they help me stack my chips, which helps me, which helps a lot. So people are always very nice to me. I never had any negative things said to me or anything.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even though poker isn't a sport, a real sport, probably. Well, some people say it's a real sport, but I think that it's interesting that poker is something where whether you're standing or sitting, it's kind of a the even playing field for everybody, mm-hmm. you know? And I've seen even like with Bert and his friends, or Bert and our son, or us and friends, like having a game like that to do is fun because everybody's the same. It's not like if y'all go play golf and it's just much different. Like I think this has been really fun for you as a hobby.
It is.
Possibly a profession, we'll say. Okay, so tell us what happened the other night when you were at the poker tournament.
I wear a colostomy.
How long have you worn a colostomy?
I've had a colostomy now for about 4 years. And before that, like I said, I've been injured 42 years. For 38 years prior to that, I just did a bowel program 3 or 4 times a week. And if I was young, getting paralyzed, when I first got paralyzed at 20, I would not like to get a colostomy then. But now that I'm 62 years old and been married for close to 30 years, I'm fine wearing a colostomy. But the other night at the poker table, I had a big pile of chips in front of me. I was doing real well, and my colostomy started to leak a little bit, and that was a problem. It's a problem.
That might be an understatement. A problem.
It was a problem because I could not leave the poker table because I had a pile of chips in front of me, and so I just would tell my neighbor next to me, "I'm sorry, my colostomy's leaking a little bit, so it may smell, but I'm going to stay in the game." And so I kept playing until he called it a night. Like 3 hours later, went back to the room, got all cleaned up. But
that's when you know you're a true poker player, when you crap yourself and you're like, I'm still staying on the table.
I wasn't going to let my chips get taken away.
Well, I think that when things like that happen, when you have experiences that don't go the best when it comes to disability, I always feel like you tend to look on the bright side of things, and it really does. You look at the positive aspects that still come from your trip. So, what happened at the end of your trip there?
Well, it was great. There was 8,703 participants in that poker tournament. I came in 349th.
Wow.
And I quadrupled my money. And if I hadn't had a bad beat, which everybody knows what a bad beat is, I could have made it farther and made more money. But I still made quadruple my money to buy in. So I was happy with that.
Amazing. Well, couple other things I want to talk about. So tell us about when you went to Italy with Wheel the World and our trip where we were in Rome and just the detail that they handled all of our planning of the train. Remember the train ride?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was something that you said that you really were still okay. Sorry, still recording. Um, Tell us about the train ride in Italy. That was something that you thought was really amazing.
Sure, we were going from Rome to Florence, and we were going to go get on the train the next morning. They had somebody come pick us up to take us to the train. I thought, all I'm doing is walking over and getting on the train. What's the problem? Well, they come and get us, and I didn't realize trains in Europe. They took us over there, and it was like a huge maze. There was probably 40 trains I could have got on, and I had no idea where I was going. So I'm so happy that Will the World sent a person to handhold us, walk us over there, take us to the correct train, and talk to the people in their language. And because there was a people that they have to get a ramp set up for you for the next train that you're going to get on. So they had the ramp all set up for us, and train came. They set the ramp up to where I could roll right up it, and they pushed me right up the ramp, got me on the train, got me right to my seat, and took us off to Florence. And so they met us at Florence from Will the World and took us on our tour. It was perfect.
It really is like white glove service. That's what I always call it. That was amazing. And the other thing I think was really interesting about that trip is so at the time, Bert was using a manual chair instead of a powered chair on that trip. And they knew that the manual chair would be really hard in some of these small towns we were in it's called San Gimignano in Italy. And they actually called and asked you if you wanted to use a scooter because the road was so bad.
Right. And I like using my manual chair. I don't really like. I didn't think I needed a scooter, but once they explained to me how the terrain would be, where we're going into, cities that were built 2,000 years ago, and there's cobblestone everywhere, I said sure. So when I got there, we transferred the scooter, and the scooter made the going around the city with these big old cobblestone roads so much easier than if I just been in my manual chair trying to stay in a wheelie the whole time.
That's why I think it's so important to have someone that helps you plan trips that understands disability, but also understands the terrain of where you're going, because for most people that go to San Gimignano that are walking, it's not a big deal, and they need to know what the landscape is and what the disability is. I think that's really important.
Helped a lot.
Absolutely. So, out of all of our trips with Wheel the World, Iceland, let's talk about the big ones: Iceland, Greece, Italy, and Chile and Patagonia. Like, which one was the one that really you loved most?
I going to Greece and going out in the ruins, and then taking us like some of the areas we go to. You have to, if you're able-bodied, you have to drive way up these hills, get to the very top, and then get out and go see them. With Wheel the World, they would take us in their transport all the way to the top as far as they could transport us, and then let us out there. And they knew the wheelchair accessible entrances. They knew how to get us from where they dropped us off to the top, and where the ramps were and where the lifts were to take us up to the top of the Parthenon. And so it was really great being with Will the World there.
Yeah. I think that the idea that there's an elevator to the top of the Parthenon is still like just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were in Athens, Greece for the Paralympics, and they had a temporary elevator there, I think you said?
Yes, they did.
Okay. So then after the Paralympics, they went and put like the full elevator there. And it's literally just unbelievable that they would do that. You know, and it's funny, you hear people in America and other places say, "Oh, it's too old. We can't make it accessible." And I always want to point them to Greece and be like, have you been to Greece? Did you see the Parthenon? Have you seen the Colosseum? The Roman Colosseum has an elevator. So I don't think your building is too old. You know what I mean? Like, we need to push back about that because that's just not right.
You make the Coliseum accessible. You make anything in America accessible.
Exactly. I like that a lot. So as far as your ideas with um, people getting on and off airplanes, let's talk about that a little bit because, airplane travel is always tough. And and it's a big deal. I'm hoping one day they do have, figure out a way for wheelchairs to actually fit on the front of a plane somehow. But I want to talk about in the meantime. So, the process of you using an aisle chair. Let's talk through that. And for some of you out there that maybe haven't, been on an airplane yet, talk how that works and how you make sure you direct your care with that.
Okay. So just last week I was down up in Chicago, my son, and we took the power chair this time. So what I did is you take the power chair, you check in your gate, you get make sure you get a gate check for your chair. So when you get the end of your flight, your chair comes up to your gate. You don't want them taking your chair to baggage. You want to bring it right to the gate for you. And so you're the first person on the plane. You take your chair down right to the entrance of the airplane, and they'll have two people transfer you. Either you can transfer yourself if you can do it, or two people will pick you up and put you in what's called an aisle chair. Aisle chair is like a little dolly with a seat on it. It's a small seat, a small chair to get you down the aisle. And we were in the first seats in coach, so we were in 10D, and I had them pick me up, put me in the aisle chair. I had the big guy get in the back, grab my arms, and the smaller guy get in the front, gal, get in the front and grab my legs, and 1, 2, 3, take me over, put me in the chair, in the aisle chair, strap me in good, take me back. I take my cushion, take me back to my seat, put my cushion in the seat, and then they do the exact same thing. They pick me up, put me in the seat, and things you do before you get on the airplane. Make sure you go to the bathroom. The very last things you do before you get on the plane. It was only a 2-hour flight, but I've had 10-hour flights where you want to not need to pee if you can get away with it. Make sure you have a brand new colostomy bag. Make sure if you don't have colostomy, make sure you did a bowel program the night before. Make sure you're as empty as you can possibly be because you don't have any access on the plane.
One thing that you always say is go get a Gatorade bottle.
I do. I get a Gatorade bottle because I use a leg bag, and so I have a Gatorade bottle because it's got a bigger top. So if I'm on a flight, like when I took a flight to the World Series of Poker out in Vegas, that's about a 5-hour flight for us. I actually did use the bathroom while I was on the plane, so I had a Gatorade bottle, which I emptied out. So I just had an empty bottle. It's got a wide top, and one time when I had a seatmate next to me that I didn't know. They went to the bathroom one time, so they went to the bathroom. I took advantage of that time. I opened the Gatorade bottle, poured the pee in the Gatorade bottle, closed my leg bag up, closed the Gatorade bottle back up, put it on my side, and then when they come through the end of the plane, they start picking up all the trash. Just drop my Gatorade bottle right in the trash.
One time I have to share this story. This is a terrible story, but I'm going to share it with you because I love you people.
That's kind of funny.
So what happened was we were on a flight to Europe, and he had to pee, so he had the Gatorade bottle. So he pees in the Gatorade bottle, and I was in the middle of a movie, so I was like, I'm not going to empty it yet. I'm just going to go ahead and sit here and watch my movie because it was a good movie. And so I just held it for a while. Well, the movie's so good, so good. And I get a little thirsty. And I forgot that it was not a water bottle and that it was a pee bottle. And I just opened it up and took a big swig. And that moment when you realize that you're drinking someone else's pee, it's a bad moment. I mean, it was like spit out and one of those, ah.
She only did it once.
I've never done it again. So be very careful if you do that, that you go empty it right away. There's pro tip from a partner of 28 years. So bad. But one thing about just the transfer situation is I think it's so important to be directive of your care, because so many times, we get on an airplane and there'll literally be, so he's 6 feet tall, I'm 5'3". There will be two people that come to transfer him, and they might be my height, but not as strong. And I mean, I can't transfer him from the back because I can't get enough like leverage because I'm not tall enough to do that transfer in the back. But I think it's so important to tell people, could you get someone taller?
Yeah, they need to have at least someone is almost as big as me behind me, and someone in front. The front's easy; it's just grab the legs. But if you have two people, make sure you put the taller person in the back. If they don't have it, sometimes they'll send 210-pound ladies down to me and say, it's not going to work. I need to get one of y'all to go find somebody else bigger.
Yeah.
And so.
And it takes longer, and sometimes they could be frustrated, but there's no way they can do it safely. So I just think it's really important to always remember, be directive with your care with that, you know?
Be assertive, make sure they can have the right people helping you.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I think that everyone do your travel profile with Wheel the World, because that has saved you so much, just time when you go places.
Sure.
And also now you aren't making all those phone calls that you used to make.
Or you're not making them all.
That's true. That's true. But thank you for talking a little bit about your time with Wheel the World. The last story I want to hear about Wheel the World was the father-son trip to Chicago and how that went.
Went great. We had Wheel the World met us at the airport, had a little sign that said Burns, and the guy took us out to a wheelchair accessible van, rolled right on, tied down the chair, because we took a power chair with us, tied down the chair, and took us to our hotel. Our hotel room was accessible. Went up there. It was totally accessible. The room had a roll-in shower with a fold-down bench, so I could just transfer to the bench, take a shower, and transfer back. And the bed was accessible. Everything was good there. They had tours for us. We had a food tour one day we met a guy down the street, and he took us around and showed us all the different old stuff of Chicago, showed us the Bean, we went to the top of the Sears Tower. It's called some other kind of tower now, but it was old Sears Tower. And went out on a little ledge on the 112th floor, a glass ledge, and got pictures made. And you'd have been scared to death. And
I'm very scared of heights, fun fact.
And we had a great time there. The food tour, he took us down. We had a great Chicago pizza, great meat sandwich they have up there, and Chicago dogs, hot dogs were wonderful. And so we kind of ate our way through Chicago. We had a good time.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I think that doing a trip like that with your kid is so great, because it, just sees that he doesn't have to have someone else, all the time. He doesn't have to have me all the time. Yeah, it's just super fun way to make memories together, for sure, for the two of you.
It was fun.
Yeah. The best family memory, though, which 22 million people have seen it on TikTok, is Bert bungee jumping. He bungee jumped in Australia, then my son went, my daughter went, and then I had to go. And again, remember, I'm super, super terrified of heights. But it's like when your husband in a wheelchair does it, you have to do it.
300 feet up. Awesome. They strapped me to my wheelchair. This time I went in the wheelchair and I just rolled off. And you want to find it? Go Wheel the World on TikTok. You'll see me rolling off a 300-foot ledge and bouncing around 4 or 5 times. It was awesome. I loved it.
It was terrifying. I screamed all the way down, all the way back, all the way down, all the way back.
One continuous scream, she screamed. It went on forever.
I did. And no one else even screamed or made a peep. I'm like, people, how can you not even be, like nothing? I was the only one.
She was.
I don't understand. Well, okay. Final round is a popcorn round of questions. Okay? Just whatever comes to your mind first. What's your favorite band?
Aerosmith.
What snack is a must?
Eagles or Aerosmith?
What snack is a must for the airplane?
Peanut M&Ms.
What is the most important thing to bring on a trip besides your passport?
Catheters.
What is your favorite country?
Italy or Spain.
What is your favorite food?
Italian or Mexican.
Would you rather have beach or mountain vacation?
Beach.
Who is someone you want to meet, dead or alive?
Ronald Reagan.
Knew it. What is next on your bucket list?
I would like to go to the South Africa safari trip that we just gave away.
Me too.
Let's go.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here on Travel Talk with Joy. I hope you guys got some insight into who he is, because he is my other half. You're always great for putting up with my over planning on trips. I tend to over plan every day when we're traveling. But thank you for being my happy sidekick on all the adventures.
Thank you for everything.
Yes. And to all of you, thank you for being here today. And follow Wheel the World, and then also follow Wheel the World Facebook accessible travel community. It's a great place to share and learn about everybody else's adventures out there. I think we just hit 25,000 people in that group, so very exciting. But tune in next time when you're going to meet a woman who has traveled to 129 countries.
Wow.
Using a wheelchair as her primary mode of transportation. She's amazing. So I cannot wait to have a conversation with her. But until then, happy travels.
Bye.